So simplifying a rational expression. My first problem reads x squared plus 7x plus 10. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to divide it by x squared minus 3x minus 10. So they just want us to take it and put it in the simplest form possible. Well, if I have a quadratic equation and I want to simplify it, all I have to do is make sure I have my factors. So I'm going to factor the top and I'm going to factor the bottom. So the top is x squared plus 7x plus 10. I need two numbers that multiply to get 10 and add to get 7. 5 and 2. So x plus 5, x plus 2. So I have my top factored out. Now I need to factor the bottom out. I need two numbers that multiply to get negative 10 and add to get negative 3. Negative 5 and positive 2. So all I've done up to this point is take my problem and factor it out. Basically, that's all this lesson is taking stuff and factoring it out. Because then everything else is just eliminating stuff. So from this point right here, to answer the problem, I want to mark out what's alike on top and bottom. So what do I have alike that's on top and bottom? So x plus 2's cancel out. Now, in order for something to cancel out, there has to be one on top and one on bottom. You understand that? It can't be two on bottom. It has to be from top to bottom. So what am I left with? So x plus 5 over x minus 5 is my answer. But they also want me to state the restrictions to this problem. Now restrictions mean what number can I put on bottom that's going to make it a 0? That number I can't use. That's what a restriction is. So if I were to take x minus 5, set it equal to 0, and solve it, I would get x equals 5. If I were to take x plus 2, set it equal to 0, and solve it, I would get x equals negative 2, right? So this is telling me right here that I can't have a 5 on the bottom, and I can't have a negative 2 on bottom, because if I do, I'm going to get a 0. And we can't have a fraction, we can't have a 0 in a fraction. So my restrictions would be negative 2 and 5.
So even after you cross those two out, you still have to...
Yes, you still have to use as a restriction, even though it's crossed out.
Only the bottom numbers are the restrictions?
Only what's in the denominator. Because if I give you a problem that looks like this, what's in the denominator is going to tell me whether it's a 0 or not, right? Same thing if you have anything any more complicated than this, we're only looking at what's in the denominator. So that's just strictly simplifying a rational expression. What now? Right here. We did. You can't have a 5 and you can't have a negative 2. No, just the bottom. Okay, next problem is 24x cubed y squared divided by negative 6x squared y cubed. Where do you think we're going to start with this one?
The bottom. Simplifying at 24 and negative 6.
The 24 and negative 6. So what's 24 divided by negative 6? Negative 4. Now I have x cubed on top and x squared on bottom. Can I simplify my x's? So when I divide exponents, what do I do to them? Subtract them. So 3 minus 2 gives me, so I have 1x on top. Then I have y squared divided by y cubed. So what's 2 minus 3? So where does my y go? On the bottom. Now I need to determine if I have any restrictions. Well, what number could I put in for x that would cause this whole thing to be 0? 0. What number could I put in for y to cause the whole thing to be 0? 0. Because if I put 0 in right here for x, 0 squared gives me 0. And anything I multiply by 0 is going to be 0. Well, what if I put 1 in for x? That would give me 1, right? And then if I multiply by negative 6, I get negative 6, and then I get y cubed. So So that doesn't give me 0. The only thing that's going to give me 0 is 0. So that would be my restrictions. X can't be 0 and Y can't be 0.
Wait, I'm still confused on how you figure out what cancels.
Whatever's on bottom. Let's get to the next problem. It's kind of difficult with this one. Wait till we get to the next one. Okay.
Is that an equal sign or is that a negative 4?
That's a negative 4. Anytime it's just a variable, x, y, or x times y, or x times y times z, it's always 0. Okay? It is only going to change when you're doing something like x plus 2 times x minus 3. So let's look at this one. Let's simplify this one. So the top is x squared plus 2x minus 8. So two numbers that multiply to get negative 8 and add to get 2 are what? Negative 2 and positive 4. And then x squared minus 5x plus 6, two numbers that multiply to get 6 and add to get negative 5. Negative 3 and negative 2. Correct. So before we even cancel stuff out to actually do it, let's talk about the restrictions for just a second, okay? Now, on any of my problems other than division, this is not going to hold true for division, okay? But on anything else I'm doing, if I want to know what the restrictions are, I'm going to look at the denominator. Right now, what do I have in the denominator? No, what do I have in the denominator right now? X minus 3 and x minus 2. I'm going to take both of those, set them equal to 0, and I'm going to solve them. What does this give me? What does this give me? So I have x equals 3 and x equals 2. That tells me that if I come over here and I put 3 in right here, what do I get? 0. 0 times anything is going to give me, so I know right there that I can't use a 3 because it's going to give me a 0. Well, what if I come over here and put my 2 in for here? 2 minus 2 gives me 0 times anything gives me, so I know that I also can't use a 2. Those are my restrictions. Because if I plug those two numbers in here, I get 0 on the bottom, and I can't have a 0 on the bottom of a fraction. That's how you get your restrictions. Okay, so now let's actually solve the problem. What cancels out? X minus 2 and x minus 2, so what am I left with?
X plus 4 over x minus 2.
And we determined that our restrictions were
3 and 2.
correct. So that would be my answer. If you know how to factor, this is super easy. If you don't, you're going to struggle. Number 4, 12 minus 4x divided by x squared minus 9. 12 minus 4x divided by x squared minus 9. 12 minus 4x. Obviously, I'm not going to have a factor times a factor because we don't have an x squared up there. So let's look for greatest common factors, likenesses. What do they have in common? A 4. So I can take a 4 out, right? So 12 divided by 4 gives me 4x divided by 4 gives me just an x. So 12 minus 4x factored out is 4 times 3 minus x.
So whenever you have 2, this is what you do?
Yes. Now, x squared minus 9. We have done hundreds of these in the past. I have a square, I have a perfect square, and I have a minus sign. What are my factors?
X minus
3.
Uh-oh.
Plus 3 and minus 3. So x plus 3, x minus 3. This problem is a little bit different, and you're gonna see this again, so you might as well understand it now. I can't have 3 minus x. I have to put the x in front. So what I need to do is pretty much take a negative out, okay? So when I bring it over here and rewrite it, I'm gonna have negative 4 and x minus 3. Because if I were to take this now, I would get, if this was a negative 1, I would get a negative x and a positive 3, which is the same thing I got over here, positive 3 and a negative x. You see that? So I'm pretty much, it's like I'm just taking this and taking a negative out so I can put x up front. It will always be like that if you just memorize it. If it's 3 minus x, negative 1 on the outside, switch them around, x minus 3.
And what does the switch thing do? It helps.
Because I have to have
These things.
it in form with the x first. The x has to be first. So now that I've done that, all I need to do is cancel stuff out. What am I canceling?
X minus 3.
So what am I left with?
Negative 4 over x.
Negative 4 over x plus 3. And what are my restrictions?
Negative 3.
Plus 3. Plus minus 3. Because I got a minus 3 here and a plus 3 there. That's my answer. That's how you simplify a